before I get into the Western Conference semifinal preview, obviously you're not seeing some 2K on the screen. You're seeing the Lakers Rockets logos, and when I talked about the Nuggets Clippers series, you're gonna see the Clippers Nuggets logos. There was something wrong with my Xbox, and I just want to get this video out on time. So I just put like this as the visual. I feel like it's more about the audio. So anyways, let's get into it. All right, Lakers Rockets. Now this one, first I want to say is Anthony Davis is gonna dominate in this series. You're gonna have PJ Tucker guarding him. You can put Tyson Chandler on him, but Tyson Chandler, he didn't play playoff minutes in the last series, and he's a great player, but he's a little bit old. And he did actually play a little bit of minutes in this series. I think he shot like a free throw at one point, but he didn't play like major minutes in this series, in the previous series against the Thunder's Rockets. So he's not gonna play in this one that much. So you're gonna have PJ Tucker guarding him, and Anthony Davis is just gonna score a lot of points, and he's gonna get a lot of doubles. And one of the keys for the Lakers, can they make their threes? Can KCP and Danny Green make their threes? That's going to be huge for them. We saw in Game 1 of the Blazers-Lakers series, they didn't make their threes and they lost. And now that's going to be huge. And they made their threes the rest of the series and they won. They won the next 4 games. That's going to be huge as well. I'm not concerned about LeBron because this is kind of set. The Rockets' defense is kind of set up for him because you have Robert Covington, PJ Tucker is going to be guarding Anthony Davis probably, but you kind of have some great wings on the Rockets team. I'm not that concerned about that because, one, I think he's better than any other player in the league, and I think playoff LeBron is really just amazing, and I think there's few players in this league that can be able to go one-on-one like Kawhi, and maybe Kawhi can go one-on-one against him. One-on-one like in a duel or whatever, like crunch time, you know what I mean? So I think he's just going to dominate this series. He's obviously dominated PJ Tucker. And Robert Covington, he has done well against when he was on the Sixers. He hasn't played them, or he played them this year when he got traded to the Rockets, and he played them when he was on the Timberwolves. I think he's going to dominate in this series. I think one of the keys for the Lakers is going to be, can you play Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee against these small ball Rockets? Because Anthony Davis, he can play perimeter defense, but can JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard play those perimeter defense well in those backup center minutes? JaVale McGee, he starts at the center, but eventually move Anthony Davis to the 5. Maybe this series he moved to the 5. But positions are meaningless anyways. Also, on that note, on guarding the perimeter, can Kuzma do it too? He's not that much of a concern I'm not that much concerned as I am for for Howard and McGee. But that's still a concern. Can they guard the perimeter against these Rockets? Because if they're not able to get some minutes from Howard and McGee, then they gotta go to Dion Waiters and J.R. Smith. And those are they're two great players. They're two good players in this league. They're kind of towards the end of their careers in this, but they were great players at one time. But the concern is I feel like they're kind of like, you don't know what you're kind of gonna get out of them. You know what I mean? With JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard, you can expect some, I know what I can expect out of them. I know what I can expect out of JaVale McGee. I can get some good defense and get some good pick and rolls, and get some nice finishes towards the basket. With Dwight Howard, I know I'm going to get a lot of effort rebounds, and who's going to play really hard. I don't know what I'm going to get with J.R. Smith and Dion Waiters in this series, and I think that's going to be key. And even if the Lakers have to give Dion Waiters and J.R. Smith minutes, I do think they're still going to win this series because I do not like the Rockets bench. They were very unreliable in this Thunder Rockets series. It was one series, but shooting they were not good. Austin Rivers, he was not good in this series, in the Rockets Thunder series, and I just think there are 6 people. I think usually there's only 6 people for the Rockets that are rotation that are playable. House was bad tonight, and Jeff Green was good tonight. So on a good night, I guess it's 7 people. But I just don't think you can make it to the conference finals with at best a a 7-man rotation. That's just my opinion. Um, I do think Russell Westbrook's gonna make a lot of points in the series. He's gonna be really good. KCP is probably gonna be guarding him. Danny Green's probably gonna be guarding James Harden. You might switch that depending on whatever. I do think, but I would rather have Danny Green on James Harden than Russell Westbrook. Um, I do think this is going to be a really fun series. I do have the Lakers in 6. Um, and yeah, that's it. Now on the other side of the conference, we have the Clippers and the Nuggets. And this one I think is going to be Clippers, but I really do think the Nuggets are going to give up a good fight. One, they have Jokic, and he's going to be playing about Zubac. Zubac is a good defender, but you saw what Jokic did to Rudy Gobert, and Rudy Gobert is, probably one of the he's up there in the best defensive big men in this league, and I really do think Jokic is going to have a big series. One of the things I'm going to look for, can Michael Porter stay on the floor? We know what he can do offensively, but defensively is really a concern for him because you're going to have those wings of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, and I don't really think he can handle that defensively. Maybe you put him on the guards, but I just think he's going to be exposed defensively, and he was exposed defensively in the last series too, and they kept him on the floor. But it's just a huge concern. I think one thing that's going to be huge is the Patrick Beverley when he returns. It's unclear if he's going to return to Game 1 tonight. Doc Rivers, I think, said he's hopeful that Beverley returns on Game 1. I do think that's going to be huge because if you have Beverley, then you could put Murray. You could put him on Murray, and you could have Kawhi on maybe Porter if he stays in the game, or if he's able to stay in the game, or Jokic. He's a little smaller than Jokic, but I think he can handle it. He handled Porzingis pretty well. Zubac couldn't really handle Porzingis, which is one of the reasons I think Jokic is going to really destroy in this series. That's going to be huge. The thing that's going to be the difference from whether this is a 4-game sweep or a gentleman's sweep, as you call it, a 5-game sweep for the Clippers, is can the Nuggets defend Paul George and Kawhi Leonard? Now they've got some very good defensive guys that could give Paul George and Kawhi Leonard a challenge. You've got Jameer Grant, you got Torrey Craig, Paul Millsap. He's a little bit worse defensively, but I think he's going to get a couple chances against Kawhi a little bit, or maybe Paul George, or he's going to get a chance to guard Paul George at some point. Gary Harris, I do think even though he's a little bit undersized, he could guard Paul George. Probably not Kawhi, just I think because he's a guard. He's something like 6'4". So maybe he doesn't guard Paul George that much, but I do think he can get a couple defensive stands against Paul George in a close series, I guess. Maybe you stick him more to Lou Will. But I do think the Denver Nuggets, they could pose a serious challenge to the Clippers. And, I have the Clippers in 5 games, but I could definitely see this series going 6 games. But I do not think the Nuggets can win this series unless Jamal Murray, he goes really off. And I think one of the keys for that would be is Patrick Beverley does not return in the series. I would say that's maybe likely because it's not really known when Beverley's going to return. That could not be a bad sign because, maybe the Clippers don't want to really reveal when he's going to return because, that's kind of a huge strategy thing. So maybe he's a little bit closer to returning than what they're letting known in the press. But that's really it. This is going to be really fun. Hopefully we do get a Clippers-Lakers matchup in the conference finals. And that's really it. Yeah.